what I'm hearing is, so for context, getting a vehicle in Nigeria is hard, especially with this outgoing administration. Vehicles have become very expensive. Now, drivers who want to get an Uber started using a service called Moove to finance the vehicle. So I think it was a drive-to-own scheme at some point. So
what Nigerians know as hire purchase.
Hire purchase. So we are hearing that Moove has been impounding vehicles. I think this started around February when the whole cash and fuel scarcity, January, February, cash and fuel scarcity. So yeah, who is giving us the details on that? Because there are lots of there's lots of wahala in this issue.
Yeah.
Let's start with Bolu. I think you have some things to share, but let's start with you.
Okay. So I'm going to I'll take the story from an angle of, or from a perspective of a driver that got his vehicle impounded. So what he shared with me was that one, they are impounding vehicles, right? And they're impounding vehicles because they've not been able to pay. There's an amount you need to remit per time, right? And they've not been able to pay that money. And the reason why is, he said, one, so Moove has this thing, right? They have this partnership with Uber, right? Where there is UberGo. So the drivers are saying that UberGo is actually for Moove, right? It's just for Moove vehicles. So when you order from UberGo, the vehicle you get is a Moove vehicle. Like it's it's a vehicle that is financed. Theory, yes, right? Yes. Okay. That is financed by Moove, right? Okay. So he's saying it's kind of like Jumia, where you have Jumia and then you have vendors on Jumia that sell on Jumia, right? It's kind of something like that. So Moove puts their
vehicles.
Yes, on and they called it UberGo, right? So he said the thing with UberGo is
the prices are lower.
Okay. And then UberGo is telling them they need to remit a certain amount. Before it was 35%, he said it was 35% of whatever they make daily, right? Which he said was still a lot. And then they changed it to 9,000.
35% of whatever they make daily.
Yes.
In addition to Uber's cut.
In addition to Uber's cut.
So Uber is usually 25%. Okay.
So he said.
Onome is trying to tell us something. Okay. What happened?
Because I know I listened to I think you said 25, not 35.
Oh, is it 25%?
Yeah.
25. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's even say it's 25.
In addition to Uber's cut of 25.
That's half.
That is 50% of your money gone. Interesting. Okay, so they now reduced it.
So they now put a more like a fixed figure. He said they gave them a fixed figure, and that was 9,400 every day. It was remitted 9,400 every day. So he said remitting 9,400 would have been easy, but you're on UberGo where fares are cheaper. So it's not that easy for you to make enough money. So at the end of the day, you don't even have enough money for yourself. And then you need to eat, you need to buy fuel, you need to fix your car, and you need to do a lot of other things.
Fixing the car? Is it
so
Uber,
fixing, okay,
Moove, or the driver?
So the agreement they had with Moove was that Moove will be fixing the cars, right? They will be doing periodic checks and things like that. But the issue is that it only covers fuel change, fuel filters, and even when you tell them your car is due for fuel change, they tell you they don't respond on time, so it takes some time, right? And then Nigerian roads now, you get shock absorber issues. So he said those things does not concern Moove, and those things are quite expensive because when you also think about it, some of those cars, I think he got this Suzuki, this compact Suzuki car. It's not that common in Nigeria. So in Nigeria, if you don't have money, buy a car that is common.
Even if you have money,
right? And then now talk less of you now buying a car that mechanic will tell you you have to go somewhere to get your parts. And so he said it gets really expensive to fix those cars. So those are the issues, right?
Okay, so before you move on, I'm checking from here to ICM, Ikeja City Mall is 1,360 naira on Uber X. On UberGo is 1,100.
Okay. What's the difference between that? I didn't get the first one.
1,100, 1,360. So just 260 different. So Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean,
Is 260 difference enough to?
well,
to
I mean,
cost
you
that
can't
much?
you can't base it
Let's
based on
try
just this trip.
a longer
So-
trip.
Okay,
and
let's
see.
So I tried a longer trip.
Maybe try like Ikoyi.
Not Ikoyi. Let's go to Ogun State first.
As
So I tried Opik
Okay.
and there's no UberGo option.
Oh.
okay.
So let me try Ikoyi. If I try Ikoyi,
Yes.
let's say I want to go to Ikoyi Club as per Big Boy.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yes.
this is where the difference is clear. So Uber X is 5,160 and
Mhm.
UberGo is 4,000.
That's
to
a
the
big
same
difference.
location. So 1,160 short.
So-
Interesting.
yeah.
So UberGo is mostly Moove vehicles.
Yes.
So, but there was a time that Moove was giving Toyota Corolla. Does it still apply to those Corollas? Is it because of the vehicle that they are making it UberGo because it feels less luxury than?
So I guess an obvious reason that they would do UberGo and use those Suzuki vehicles is the cars are so small. So I've entered it a couple of times, and I have heard people complain about how small it is. I mean, I'm not that big, so I really do not care about the size of the vehicle. But I've heard a lot of people complain, especially people who are tall. They complain about how uncomfortable it is. So it's perfect for short distances, which could be one of the reasons why. So if you've entered any of them, you would notice that if the driver exceeds 80 kilometers per hour, there's this annoying sound that you start hearing, and that's the reason. So they have to maintain a certain speed limit. So I know that I think they also had something like that on the Corolla vehicles that they were given. But to your question, I think they've stopped.
You start giving it to Corolla.
So if you even look at the cost of the Corolla, or let's look at the cost of this
The Suzuki
Suzuki.
Espresso.
We are hearing that the cost is about 9 million naira, although by the time they are done paying, it's 11 million naira. If I calculate, of course, it's a brand new one. I think the Corolla they were giving them were fairly used Corollas, not brand new
Newer
Corollas.
models.
Yeah, but I know that when I started seeing the Corollas, I tried to like do a comparison. So the Corollas were selling for about 6 to 7 million naira, like fairly used Corollas back then. They were selling for 6 to 7 million naira, and if they have to repay, they have to it comes to about 9 million naira. It's easier for you to pay 9 million naira if you're doing longer rides and you're probably making more money. Not probably, you're definitely making more money.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
the longer ride series, the longer ride theory actually makes sense. I just did a trip to Abraham Adesoya estate in Lekki, and there's no UberGo option, just Uber X.
Just Uber X.
And
yeah.
it's 9,000.
So if I give Uber my 25% and give Moove maybe 25 or 35%, I have a tidy sum that. So one of the drivers I spoke with said they had to pay about 50,000 naira every week for the Corolla, which was what he got. And he mentioned that when he got it, there were only 11 who got it. So that's. But he said some very interesting things. So, for example, he said there's always an issue. Something he mentioned earlier too. When your car gets spoiled, he said it's not like you get quick resolution. So there's always a time lag between when the car gets fixed. So, for example, his car got bad around February, but it hasn't been fixed up to today. So he's basically out of work and he's having to look for other ways to get his job done. So that's a problem that I think it's not a very surprising problem. So if you're familiar with the hire purchase business model in Nigeria, you know that stuff like this happens always. There's always this disagreement. I own the car. I'm giving it out to a driver who fixes the car. There's always that problem. And the reason is, if I give you the car, you use it more than I do. It's my car, but you're the one making use of it. So who makes payments? And we have this thing we say that people who are, like when people are driving, so I don't know if you've ever been in a car with an elderly person and someone speeds past, like or is driving very carelessly.
No be in car.
No be in car, exactly. So the reason is because when you look at public transport, the guys who are public transport drivers, they're very reckless. And that thinking goes on, and they just think, okay, you're probably reckless with this car, which would make it get spoiled faster. What assurance do I have that the problem the car is having is not due to your carelessness? If it's due to your carelessness, then I'm essentially paying for your carelessness in addition to all the other, because I'm not getting all the money you make. So I'm paying for your carelessness, and I'm also paying for giving you my car in a way. So that problem has always existed. So it's interesting or not interesting. It's probably not surprising that Uber or Moove is having these issues with the drivers, because now you always have to manage the two responsibilities. Of course, Moove they have a tracking device that lets you know how the driver behaves. But even at that, you still have the customer care or customer relationship issues. Like, how do we coordinate the whole process, right? Your car is bad. Should we fix it? How extensive is this damage, right? So all of those things cause a lot of problems. And really, it's another reminder that tech doesn't exactly solve all your problems. Tech is just an enabler. It doesn't solve the actual business problems. Because if you've ever heard someone say he wants to start an Uber business, it's always the first question people ask: don't waste your money. They tell you don't waste your money. And the reason is the stakeholder management or driver management in this case is crazy. How do you ensure that you're getting the best drivers for your vehicle? So Moove is in a bad spot. Drivers are in a bad spot. Everybody's going to be pointing hands at the other person.
So did any of the driver you spoke to allowed us to use their voice on the podcast?
Yes, they did. And I think we'll be listening to their voice right about now.
The UberGo we are using, strictly they are the owner of the UberGo, not really Uber. They are the owner. So the fares on UberGo are cheaper, very cheaper. So we were still managing it that at the end the cars will turn to us. Along the line, they increased the fare, the money we have to pay remitted in a day to 9,400 naira
every day.
And every day. And for us to even make up that 35% they were collecting there, it was not easy for us, because by the time we fuel our car, by the time Uber removed their commission and everything, we are left to change. So how much are we to remit in a day? Before it was 35%, which the price wasn't stable. It depends how many trips you do there. We split it. If you make 15,000, they remove 35%. If you understand what I mean?
Okay.
The price wasn't stable then, but not until they fix it a stable price, 9,400.
That's quite an interesting one, right? But yeah, the concerns with these drivers are there. But me, I'm tempted to side with the business in this issue. I'm not taking sides on a normal day, but like King Rosimi said, if it's a drive to own scheme, it's not like I'm lending you the car or you are renting the car. You are going to be the owner of the car. So let's take normal buy now pay later, for instance. CDK, when I bought this phone, they told me very, very clearly that, okay, we are giving you a temporary receipt for the ownership of this phone. If you fail to meet your payment within the certain time, then we'll come and claim it back. But once you've completed your payment, you get a permanent receipt. Now, within that payment period, if anything happens to this phone, is this CDK that should come and fix it?
An interesting question.
I don't have the answer.
No. It's very simple.
Yeah, it's okay.
You signed the contract when joining this platform. Now, in February, we heard there was a protest. They introduced that driver care program, and they reduced the number of daily trips. They reduced the amount they're supposed to remit in monthly. But people are still defaulting. Yes, the country is hard. Yes, there's a cash crunch. Yes, but you have to. There was a time I took rent. I took loan to get my first rent. The month that's as I was paying that rent. COVID hit, salary got slashed, and the debt I had to be paying was more than what was entering my account every month. So
So shaggy.
I saw Shege at the hands of that company that I took loan. Like, they insulted me. I had to borrow money to pay them eventually because it was getting too much. Yes, these companies are harassing you, but you have to also understand that they are running a business. So if you are going to be the owner of the car, what is the standard hire purchase model? If it's a case of, oh, I'm still the owner of the car, just be remitting to me daily for till time I'm in Muria. Then yes, I can understand if they should be the ones to repair the one. But if you're going to own the car at the end of the day, then you should be the one to repair it. I know it's going to be difficult. Then where I'm not going to side with the drivers is those restrictions that the car has. They can't make as much trips as the other guys on the platform. They can't go those long distance. Like I just saw the Aja. I just saw a trip to Aja, Lekki. So it's mostly short distances. So I think that's where the balance needs to be. Like, Moove should focus more on helping these drivers make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
But I think the burden of responsibility for fixing the car should be on the drivers.
So it looks like, from the conversations I've had, it appears Moove said we will fix the cars.
Why did they say that?
Now, that is a question they would have to answer. But perhaps they were not very sure of how.
Was it before the protest or after the protest?
Before the protest. Like, before they gave them these vehicles, they told them, oh, we will be fixing the cars. When it has issues, bring it. And I think there's a reason for that, right?
Okay.
If you give someone like the Suzuki vehicles, they are scarce in Nigeria. So we probably don't have the expertise to fix them. So if you don't have the expertise and you give it to someone else, that means the car could be damaged beyond repair, which impacts everybody. Moove will get a vehicle. So even if they recover it from you, they get a vehicle that is practically useless to them. Even if they leave it with you, you also are unable to pay them, and then your loan keeps accumulating, which is why I suppose they should have. So first time I saw the Corolla vehicles, what I thought to myself was, this is a very high risk business you guys are getting into. So I think they started with, I can't remember the exact number, but I think there was a time they bought like 5,000 cars at the same time. It's good, but what you're doing is kind of dangerous, right? If I get a car, a 2014 or 2015 Corolla is around 6 to 7 million naira, depending on who you're talking to. Some people are saying as much as 9. If I get that, they had 36 months, 48 months payment periods. It's still a very long time. It's very easy for me to look at it. Like, it's usually with the benefit of hindsight to realize that time goes by quickly, but people could look at it and be like, the next 3 years of my life will be committed to repaying this loan. And there's actually no guarantee that every day you get out of your house, you will get the trips. So except there was a sort of partnership where Uber is directing or routing some trips that, like, high paying trips to these guys, there's no guarantee that they would always be able to make the amount of money needed to cover their loans.
Is it okay? I just want to say, could we be maybe because it's something new in Nigeria?
It's not new.
So the thing is, yes.
new.
So impounding vehicles, I think, is something that will definitely happen.
Yes, definitely.
Because I mean, if you watch some of these repo reality shows in the US and you see the what they do to repossess cars, right? It can be a very very crazy ordeal.
It's not in Nigeria that we don't even have a
so it's something that there will always be bad actors that will not even want to pay. Probably it might not even be about them, the ability to pay. They might just refuse that.
Of course, you are seeing
Let
it
me
with
see if I can rip these people
you're seeing
off.
it with the loan apps where people just take loans.
That is an issue. That is where I'm siding with businesses, because a lot of at the time when the company was harassing me for loan, I was saying, why is this company so inconsiderate? But thinking back now I have to look at it. That person's KPI was for me to pay my money. Anyhow he can use to make sure I pay, he does everything possible.
Yeah, so
and the government does not help in terms of regulations to help these people recover money. Why? I'm not even talking about vehicles now. I'm talking about lending.
Yeah.
The GSI, the Global Standing Instructions, that allows you to debit any of your BVN linked accounts if you are defaulting. If you put your Access Bank and you put your BVN in your registration process, the lender should be able to debit your UBA or your First Bank if you are defaulting and you refuse to put money inside Access Bank, right? Any of your BVN linked accounts. But most lenders don't have access to that GSI. It's only the top tier banks. And those top tier banks are not going to lend to you and I because who are you?
Who are we?
So that issue for me, I think, is a major problem. And I'm going to go on a limb here and say Moove did not do proper background checks on these drivers before they gave them these vehicles. And we're talking of 9-11 million.
I also think that they got themselves committed too early. This would have been perfect. And yes, I'm saying this without any experience in the ride-hailing industry, so drag me softly. The problem here is the average Nigerian knows how the hire purchase business model works. They know the pitfalls that come with it. There's always that person who thinks that he can right all the wrongs in the industry. And I think that was Moove. They probably felt with tech, we can easily fix these problems.
Until they
saw protests. Because the truth is, they were playing in a very... they were in the middle of two interesting industries. You're doing lending on one hand, but you also have gig workers. Gig workers have their own fight. Lending borrowers have their own fight. So you're fighting or you're collecting from both sides. So they were taking on a lot. If they had done this slowly, then it would have afforded them time to learn from their mistakes, which, of course, is accepted that you will make mistakes. But if I make a mistake with 100 vehicles, it's an entirely different scale from when I make it with 5,000 vehicles. Okay, let's say 30 of the vehicles, they get the drivers either abscond with it or do something funny with it, fine. But if I do it with 5,000 and then I have maybe 30% of 5,000, it's entirely different. Like, you put money down when you're buying the cars. You can't get it back. And the way cars are, the vehicles are losing value the longer they exist. So it's not a case of, it's not a case of me lending you money and I know that even if I have, so for example, your loan, the bank or the service provider can reach out and say, okay, fine, why have you not paid? COVID. Okay, fine. Can we rework the terms of your loan? The money doesn't lose as much value as a car. So yes, car that we bought at 6 million and we told you pay X amount. Maybe by the time we repossess it from you after 1 or 2 years, the car has gone from 9 million. Well, depending on the car, what has happened in Nigeria in the last few years is crazy. But all things being equal, that car would have ideally gone from 9 million, for example, to 7 million. Who knows how you used it? Have you taken out some certain parts? Have you taken it to one mechanic that did some silly work and then maybe the value has even dropped significantly? So now if I give it to another person, which is probably what they're going to do, if I give it to another person, now the person starts having issues. Okay, now if he starts having issues, of course, I don't know the problems these cars had before I gave it to this guy, or maybe I do.
Yeah,
I
know there are a lot of issues with this, right? But well, okay, let me point out. What you were saying about the cars reducing value over the years reminded me of something. My dad bought a photocopier in 2011 for 30,000 naira, and he sold it in 2021 for 50,000 naira, 55,000 naira. That same photocopier, and we used the life out of that photocopier. So, but if you really look at it, it might look like he made money, but he still lost money because
inflation,
devaluation, and all of that. But that is, you could take a positive spin to it, like things in Nigeria will always get more expensive, right? So, but apart from that, I'm willing to bet that if they had not gone the mass market routes and carried Suzuki, if they are stuck with the Corolla,
that popular Corolla,
if they are stuck
not is it the popular one? You know, the 2015.
Okay. 2006.
Not 2006.
Okay.
It was 2014 and 2015 Corolla they were giving out.
Yeah.
2014, I'm looking at Cars 45 right now. It's between 5 million to 6 million.
Which is surprisingly cheaper than that Suzuki vehicle.
So the Suzuki Espresso is new, right? So
yes,
but in the Nigerian context, this Corolla is way more valuable.
Of course.
Even though it's fairly used, it's very, very strong, durable, can go long, it can go from
we have
here to Kano.
experienced mechanics everywhere.
That can fix it.
Shami, they don't see your car.
Moove is not under any pressure to say, okay, this car is not common, or let's help us fix it for you. If you are stuck with this, of course, logistics issues, supply issues might come, but you mentioned that, okay, maybe they try to move too fast, but they've been raising money. They've been raising money, so they have to move fast.
So I think it was Bulu I was telling this. So this kind of business here, it's really you're raising money. But what's happening is that you are, except you also have someone else who is going to front you that money, like for the cars, and then you are not committing yourself with. So if I go to import 5,000 vehicles, right? I'm importing 5,000 vehicles at the exact cost of that 5,000 vehicles. I will not be recovering it until, so depending on the average tenure that my guys take, I will not be recovering until 2-3 years. Yeah. So maybe I'll be getting it in bits, which means I'm running. Exactly. They don't have any other money they are doing much business with.
Okay.
It's a whole lot for them, really.